Well, hello, welcome to the OnePLM on machine probing web presentation. I can see a couple of names out there that I recognise, so welcome to you, and there's also a couple of names I don't recognise, so clearly welcome to you as well. And let me introduce myself. So my name is Andy Schaffner. I'm the technical manager at OnePLM for manufacturing. Obviously we've got a reasonable sized team. There's five people in the team writing posts and doing NX cam training. So between us, we've sat down and we've looked at what we felt was needed as far as a decent automated probing solution within NX. There is already some probing solutions inside NX. A number of you are using them. Either they're using the generic motion or using the user-defined events, or other people are using like a copy and paste method from Word or Excel. But we sat down and we thought, let's try and create something which is actually really quite slick. And I like to think that that's what we've done. Obviously, we're all production engineers. I used to work at Renishaw for 6 years myself, so we've all got some good different probing experience that we've brought to the party to build this solution. Okay, so let's look at what we've actually got here. So first of all, we've created a set of operations. We've looked at creating a line axis. We've done a single surface measure, which obviously allows you to be able to do X, Y, or Z. We've got a bore and boss. We've got an external and internal corner, and we've created a web and a slot. You can see they're all as separate icons on the top within the operations subtype, and as you hover over each of those you get another pop-up which gives you a better indication and description of actually what is taking place. When you select each of the operations, you get a dialog box which is specific to that particular operation type, and we'll be going through that in more detail in the next 20 minutes or so. And it enables you to update work offsets, update tool offsets. It enables you to save away variables so that you can do more complex probing by adding things like macro B to the programming itself. These probing operations are designed to either be used with the Renishaw macros or the Siemens cycles. Okay, so rather than me just show you PowerPoint screen, let's crack on and do some stuff inside NX. So let me just go and open up my NX screen. And so here we've got a part which I've already programmed. So let's go and have a look at this first of all. So I'll just select the program group. I'll just go and display the in-process workpiece it is, or the blank as it would be at this point. I'll just press play so that we can see the material being removed here. Now what I'm going to be running on here is NX 1980 that was released a couple of weeks ago. The probing operations that we've got, we have developed to work in NX 1899 or above. You know, we've gone back a few releases as well. Okay, so what we've got going on here, we've got the adaptive milling operation at the moment on the screen. If any of you haven't yet used adaptive milling, I would strongly recommend it. It's really good indeed. So going on from that, we're going to do some just milling in the corners. Let me just speed this up a little bit. Just finish off in the corners. We're going to finish the walls and then finish the floor before going round to the second side and machining a hole on the second side, before finally coming back and using the new planar deburring operation to do deburring. You might think, well, what big deal about planar deburring? This is a new automated deburring, so basically you just pick all the faces that you want to machine and it just goes away and deburrs them. Really good. Okay, anyway, we're not talking about that today. There is going to be another presentation on what's new that you're going to be invited to in the next couple of weeks. I hope you all attend that. But today we're going to be talking about the probing. So, okay, let me just turn off the in-process workpiece for the minute and let's look at what we're going to be doing. Well, in this particular case, as you saw, we're working on the front face G54, we're working on the side face G55. So we've got two datums here. So first thing I want to do is set those up. So quite simply, what we're going to do is let's just go and turn the workpiece blank on so we can see it. What we're going to do is we're going to create an operation, and as I said, first thing we'll do is we're going to do a single surface measure. So with that, we're going to just select the probe. We're going to be working on G54, and I'm going to say probe Z to set G54. Okay, and I'm just going to say OK to that. Okay, so here we are. Here's the first of the operations. We get some quite simple options we have here. What is the clearance plane I want for this tool? I'm going to say it's 60 mm. I've set that as default. What's my probing direction? It's set to Z at the moment, but I could go in either of the X's or either of the Y directions. If I was in X or Y, what depth do I want to actually probe at relative to the point I'd selected? And what do I want to do? Do I want to update my work offset? Do I want to update my tool offset? Or do I want to do nothing but take the variables that I've got and use them for something else? And we'll look at doing that a little bit later on. In this particular case, we're going to update the work offset. Because I'm updating the work offset, I don't have to put anything in the next field, because obviously the work offset it's going to update is the one which is active and working on at the minute. So I don't have to tell it which one I'm working on, it knows which one I'm working on. Okay, in case I get stuck and I'm not quite sure what to do, quite simply, if we go to the help option up here, there's a little pull down, and that gives us more instructions as to what to actually do in this particular operation. Okay, so what we're going to do, quite simply, if I go and select the point to select, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go into here and I'm just going to say I want to select a point on the face. And so if I just select a point there, let's just go to the works coordinate system. We can see it's automatic because it's picking this top face of the billet. It knows it's at Z2, so great, that's where I want to probe it, Z2. Don't really want to probe at these random numbers, so let's go and make that 15, and let's go and make that 15 as well. So we've got some nice numbers that we're working with inside an X, and quite simply all we need to do is just generate that, and that's it. We've got the code created. If I actually change that to animate the replay, if I press play, you can see that we get the animation taking place of the tool on the part. Dead simple. So just say OK to that, and there you go. There's our probing. I'll just put it in the probing folder for the minute, so that we're just going to post-process this code rather than all of the code to start with. So quite simply, if I post-process that, you'll see that what's happening is that the probe comes in, turns the probe on, it's protected move into position, and there you go. You see it's going to go to the Z2, and it's going to go and update my G54 offset. As you can see, it's gone to X and Y 15, which is exactly where we asked it to go to. And then finally it's gone and turned the probe off. Dead simple. Great, okay, so that was really easy to do. Let's see if the other operations are just as easy. Let's go and do the corner now. So quite simply, create an operation. We're going to go to our external corner. There's an internal corner one as well if we wanted to use that, but there isn't an internal corner on this part. So what we're going to do, again, use the same probe, and we're going to say set G54 X and Y. Okay, so what we're going to do, just say OK to that. And as you can see, dialog box looks very similar to before. Again, we've got the help menu at the top in case we want a little bit of help to explain what needs to be done. Clearance, where do we want the clearance plane to be? It's going to be 30 mm. How far below the point I select do I want the tool to go? So we're going to say it's going to go 10 mm below the point I select. What's my standoff distance? So how far away from the edges of the material is the tool going to be? And we've got these extra ones to say, do we want to do a single or a two point measure on each face? If I leave those at 0, we'll just do the one. So let me just go and select the corner first of all. So quite simply, I'm just going to select that corner. And what we're going to ask ourselves is, where do we want the corner to be? So do I want it to be the top left, top right, bottom left, or bottom right? And I'm going to be on the bottom left. And again, what I want to do is update the work offset. So quite simply, all I need to do is generate that, and there you go. We've actually got the probing operation in there straight away. So if I just press play on that, you can see it does the probing for me. If I wanted a 2-point probe on that, quite simply, maybe I want to go into there and put 20 and 20 to get 2 extra points. And so you can see that's exactly what it does. It adds extra points into the probing. So quite simply, if we press play on that, that's exactly what we get. We get the extra points actually being output. Superb. Okay, so that's it. We've got 2 lots of probing in there. Oh, let's go and post-process that to actually look to see what we get. So, quite simply, same as before, turns the probe on, protected position, still goes to do the Z move, updates the offset, protected move back again, but this time it doesn't turn the probe off because it knows it's still going to be needed. But what it does do, it updates the work offset and the position so that it's updating anything which took place above it, and then quite simply goes to another protected position, goes down, Z minus 8, which is obviously, we know our surface is at Z plus 2, we asked to go to 10 below that top surface, so it's going to go to Z minus 8, does a probing move in two points, goes to protected position, and then goes and turns the probe off. So dead simple. Okay, so what we could do is we could actually take those and we could actually put them into the top of the job, and maybe we could go and so we actually want to simulate the whole of the part here now. So we could go into machine simulation. We could go into execute view, so we see all of the program in there, and we could press play, and now we can see if I turn the block off because that's not part of the simulation. Press play, there's still an M0 in the part, in the sub-program, and you can see we now get the whole of the machine movement taking place on the part before it goes away and starts doing the material removal. Okay, no point seeing the whole of the material removal, we saw that a little bit earlier, didn't we? Okay, great. So now we've seen the a couple of operations being added, and we've seen, I'll just move those back down there for the minute. Now we've seen the operations being added, and we've seen what the code looks like, and we've seen it simulate. Let's go and add some more. Let's go and add one for G55 this time. So quite simply, let's go and create an operation. Let's go and set that to G55, and I'm going to go set X and Y G55. Okay, so quite simply all we need to do is we need to go around to that other side. Let's just turn that block on again. Let's just go and select that corner again. Let's go and select that face so we know where the Z is, and this time we'll only do a single point measure, so quite simply we're going to go keep those as zeros. Bottom left hand corner again, update the work offset, generate that, and there you go, you see we've got the probing on this side as well. So quite simply what's going to happen now is when I post process, you can see it's done the single point measure, it's done the X and Y at G54, it's then gone back to 0, it's indexed round, and it's done the corner measure for G55. Brilliant. Okay, so that's setting up the part, and actually we'll look at setting up the part in a different way in a minute, because I'm not quite sure if I want to probe for G55. I've already probed for G54, and I know where G55 should be relative to that, so it will use some logic and save some variables away to do it using a different method in a moment. But before we do that, let's go and use it for doing some inspection or tool updates. So what I've got in my program here is I've got a test cut for the walls. Let's just zoom in a little bit on that. And if we go and turn on the measure, you can see that indeed that web is actually supposed to end up at 6 mil. So if I have a look at my test cut, we can see that actually we're leaving 0.1 on the walls. So at this moment in time, that web should be 6.2. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a web or a pocket measure. Let's change that back to G55, and I'll say check test cut 6.2 wide. Okay, so I'll say okay to that. And again, this is a web, so we've had a look at a single point, we've had a look at a corner. This is the web now. You can see it's very similar again. Again, in the help, there's some information as to what is required. It's all laid out in a very, very similar way. What's the web measure direction? Is it X or is it Y? What do I want the clearance plane to be? How deep do I want the probing to take place above the point I select? And then more important, or just as importantly, but another different thing this time around, is how wide is that web? So in this particular case, we know it's 6.2. And the question's got to be, what do I want to do with the information I've got? Do I want to do nothing? In which case maybe I want to do some kind of clever maths. Do I want to update the work offset, or do I want to update a tool offset? Well, actually I want to update a tool offset. And if I have a look over here, we can see that the test cuts and the finish on the walls is done with tool 4. So actually the tool I'm looking to update is indeed tool 4. And what do I want to do? Feature type, is it a pocket or is it a web? Well, indeed it's a web. So that's what I want to probe, is a web. Okay, so what we're going to do is select a point. Quite simply, I'm going to go into here and I am going to select the between 2 points option. What I'll do is I'll select a point on that wall of the web, I'll select a point on that wall of the web, and that's going to tell me where the center point of the web will be. So say OK to that, say OK again, and generate, and that's exactly what's happened. We've created a nice web measure across there. So again, if we press play on that, you'll see the tool come down and do a nice web measure across the part. Excellent. Okay. So if we now just go in and just post-process that, you'll see that we've got the code for that as well. Scroll down the bottom and you see this time, rather than it updating a work offset, it's updating a tool offset instead. Okay. It's worth pointing out that there are times when obviously some of these values you don't want to use the default values and you want to put additional or different values in to the default ones. So we've taken care of that. If we have a look inside the set variables page, you'll see down the bottom we've got the optional probing values, parameters, and you can go in there and you can change different parameters that you want if the default ones aren't exactly as you require. Okay. More importantly, or not more importantly, because it's all very important, is these variables. So it's all well and good going in and doing a single point measure or a single corner measure, but there are times when the probing that you want to do gets more complicated, and we've tried to cater for that in what we think is quite a neat way. So let's say, for example, we don't want to probe G54. So I'm going to get the G55. Sorry, we don't want to probe the G55. I want to use the values from G54 to calculate the 55 for me. So I'm just going to delete that one. Right. So the first issue that you have when you're probing is that I probe this first point here, and what happens if I just go into here, go into my set variables, is that the probe sets a load of variables, hash 185 for the X position, hash 186 for the Y position, and so on and so forth. It's absolutely great. The problem is they will get overwritten when I go and probe that corner. So if I want to do any maths that needs to take the values from one probing session and then maths from or variables from another probing session, I've got to save them away somewhere else. So I've made a nice neat way of doing that. We've created this save variables option. So quite simply, in this particular case, what I want to do is I want to save away the error of that's been found in the Z position. So maybe it's absolutely bang on and the error is 0, but maybe it isn't. So I want to save the error away, and I'm going to save it away to hash 606 because I know that's a safe place that I can put it. Where you want to put them is kind of, you'd have to look on your controller as to where you've got some blank variables, but I've always found the 600s to be relatively empty. So we're going to save the Z to 606, okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the X and Y, and I could do all of my probing for all the macro stuff inside this operation now, and I am going to, but for good housekeeping I'm also going to save these variables away as well. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to save the X value away to hash 603. So the two values that I actually need for G55, I'm actually going to save away, so I've always got them in case I make a mistake and I want to understand what the problem was. I've got those variables saved. Excellent, so I've got those. Now I've got those, quite simply, if I post-process this now, as you see, as I scroll down, you will see that the variables are saved into the program quite neatly and quite quickly. So it's a really quick and easy way of saving away the variables. But I still want to do something with them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close that, and I'm going to open up the XY corner measure. Now I could do this in a separate operation, but I'm going to keep it all within this corner one for the minute, because what we have the option on the probe inputs to actually output additional code. So if I just go into here and say hello everyone, and say OK, clearly nothing whatsoever to do with probing, but just to demonstrate the situation. If I say OK to that, you'll see that you get hello everyone output there. Great, so that means that I can actually use that notes for adding extra logic. So let's go and take a look at that. What I've actually got in my unused area is I've got some probing logic, and I've only got one piece of probing logic in here for the moment, and that's the bit that I need. But arguably you could have loads of different pieces of logic in here, either as a separate items in the unused, or you could have them however you want. And what I'm going to do, I mean, I could have typed this in, but it might have ended up with me typing it in incorrectly and looking silly, so I'm just taking this and I'm just going to copy it. And what I'm going to do is just go back into here now, back into my list, into my notes, and I'm just going to paste that into, let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of that line at the top. And so now we've got the macro calls that we need. So quite simply, I'm going to take the variables that we've got, and we're going to add the error to the G55X, and we're going to add the error to the G55Z, and that's it. The offsets will be updated for G55. So if I just say OK to that and generate it, say OK, quite simply, when we post-process this now, I end up with all the logic that I actually need in the probing, really quite easily. Okay, so moving on from there really quickly, just one final one. We haven't looked at a bore or a boss, so let's quickly look at a bore option. Quite simply, let's go to G55, let's say OK. Quite simply, we can go round to my bore round here in exactly the same way. Let me go and pick that. Let me go and say that's the Z axis I want to be machining on. Let me just quickly go and do an analyze. Local radius, not quite sure what it is. It's going to be 14. Okay, so quite simply that's going to be 14 mil diameter. My Z depth on that I'm going to say is going to be 5 mil. And what I want to do, I'm going to update my tool offset again, and again I'm going to say it's tool number 4, and it's actually not a boss, it's actually a hole. So generate that, and you can see quite simply I get my probe in there. Brilliant, because now we identify that maybe I should, if I just go and step down singly, yeah, I think looking at where that is, I'm actually still a little bit too deep. So I reckon I need to go down maybe to 3 mil deep, generate that. There you go. That's a look. That now looks as if it's going to be safe, and I'm actually going to probe actually on the bore itself and not actually on that bottom on that bottom item. So you can see there that we've got a probe bore going on as well in there. Great. Well, I wasn't going to use that today, so let's go and delete that. Quite simply, we can now take those items there. Let's push them up to the top of the program. Let's take that check test cut. Let's go and put that into the test cut just under there, and quite simply we can post-process all the code, and that's it. We've got a full program with all of the probing already in, ready to go. All of which can be run within the ISMV simulation if we wanted to prove it all out in there as well as an extra check. But everything is in there, all compact. You've got the ability to save away your variables. You've got the ability to add probing logic as required. Excellent. Okay, so back to the PowerPoint. Okay, so to sum up on what we've looked at the different dialog boxes for the different operation types. We've looked at updating work offsets, tool offsets. We've looked at saving away variables and adding probing logic. And this can be used in both Renishaw macros and Siemens cycles. We've looked at the fact we can use a line axis, single surface, bore boss, internal and external corners, webs and slots. Now, what I would say, I know a lot of you are using probing, and I hope this is this fulfills all of your needs. For those that aren't yet doing probing, or are a little bit nervous about using probing, thinking it's a bit of a black art, I know I did before I started working at Renishaw. Please don't. It is really simple. It's just a switch, touches a part, sends a trigger to the controller to say where it is. So if you do need help or advice on adding probing, please give us a call. So yeah, my email's down there, andrew.schaffner@oneplm.com. If you've got any questions, please do get in touch. I've got a couple of questions that need answering. The first one on there is about lathe probing. Do we offer lathe probing? So good question. Yeah, we started talking to people about this a couple of weeks ago, and when we first mapped it out, like I say, with the whole team, we felt we'd wanted to focus, or the demand would be for milling. And indeed, there has been a lot of interest on the milling side, but people have come along and said, "Can you do lathes as well?" So yes, the answer is we although we haven't at the moment developed it for lathes, we will be developing it for lathes as well. Okay, second question here. Can you use this probing for inspection routine? So again, we did when I worked at Renishaw. Absolutely, we machined the parts, and then we would probe them on the same machine to make sure they were correct. Now I know a lot of inspection departments are a little bit nervous about that, because they say, well, you know, if the slides are wrong on the machine, well, it's the same slides that are measuring the part. Yeah, I agree with that, but there are ways you can get around the problem, so we can discuss that with you. Similarly, it's not just a question of, yeah, well, all the cycles that we're using for inspection would be exactly the same cycles as we've used here today. The question's got to be, what do you want to do with the answer? So if the bore is small, what are you going to do? Are you going to bring the tool back out and recut it? If the bore is big, what are you going to do? Are you going to scrap the part? Are you going to stop the machine and make the light flash? You've got to understand what the process is going to be and what the logic's going to be in the program. But absolutely, we can help you with that, and yeah, we can help add all that to the post processor. Okay, finally, there's another question here. What version? I think I mentioned that earlier. Yeah, we decided to write this in 1899. This new probing that we've put in is based on the new functionality in generic motion. And I believe that came along at NX12. We chose not to do it in NX12. We thought we'd wait until everything was stable and we understood how it was all working. So we decided to do it in 1899. So anything that's 1899 or newer, absolutely we can add this probing to. In fact, what I would say, as a parting gesture, if people aren't yet on 1899, the continuous release versions, I would really encourage you to do so. There's some really good stuff that's come along in NX over the last couple of years, and it's definitely worth upgrading. On that point, the next presentations that we're going to do in a couple of weeks' time are actually what's new presentations. Now, this one has been obviously a web session with a closed mic, so you've been able to ask questions by typing in, but other than that, it's just been me talking. What we propose is for the what's new is to have an open mic so you can ask questions. Now, the problem with that is I can't open it up to 60 different companies all on the same session. There'd be too many questions. So what we're going to do is we're going to deliver the what's new on a company by company basis. So just me and OnePLM delivering to one company at a time. So it's going to be 1 hour time slots to each company. So you're all invited, absolutely. If you're absolutely interested in it, I'm sure you all are, please send me an email to let me know your interest. We're gonna try and organise these for the first 2 weeks in September, but I will be sending another email invite out to everyone anyway to remind them, and I'm pretty sure the sales guys will be asking you to come along. Clearly, the kind of events that we've had in the past at Silverstone, I don't want to say they're a thing of the past. I'm pretty sure we'll be doing them again at some point in the future, but obviously this is the way to get the information out at this moment in time. So I've really enjoyed doing this presentation to you today, and I really look forward to seeing you in September for the what's new ones. Please don't be scared of probing. I think this is a great solution for adding the probing to NX CAM. Please, if you have any questions and you're really interested in doing it, please send me an email. There's my email address down at the bottom. Send me an email and we'll see what we can do to help. Again, thanks for your time, everybody, and I will speak to you all again shortly.